You can pull it off. I bet you do like well with like sundresses and shit like that too, right?
I'm really trying to do the sundress thing. It's really funny you say that because I've been in like a really hippie kind of like barefoot, power to the people, Berkeley thing. And I'm like,
Cool.
I'm switching it up a little bit.
Well, it's good to mix it up every now and then. And to mix it up, we are live with Mary Buckingham. It is so good to see you, darling. How is everything?
Oh, good to see you too. It's really, things are actually, there's so much has shifted since the last time like we did this.
Dude, absolutely. So catch, this is of course Expanding Awakening, which is on the Conscious Awakening Network. We are super grateful to be here and to introduce Mary to you guys. This is our fourth one, I think, and we're super pumped about this. So Mary has been on the show before, which is what she's referring to, our Expanding Reality show, which you guys can check out. I'm sure it's all the places, but we're not here to talk about that. But go definitely check out her episode because that was a banger. And having you on was just so cool to hear about you, hear about your perspectives. But more so, we've actually become really dear friends, and you're very instrumental in a dear friend of ours who is. I guess they're experiencing some challenging times within their family in the form of cancer. It sort of showed up and just got their attention. And you have been so sweet to offer your services and just to sit with them and to just be sweet and to offer them something else. And you and I can get into that later, but just wanted to thank you from the bottom of my heart for being so sweet and just being a friend outside of all of this. So just to let everybody know out there listening and watching, just for some context, but beyond the context that I've just provided here, young lady, do you and your Barrette mind telling us just a little bit more about yourself here?
So I channel full time. I also use two different modalities in conjunction with channeling. One is breath work, and the next is called CAP, Kundalini Activation Process. I've been doing CAP for a while, but I recently went to Sweden and got officially certified to be a facilitator. So CAP is started by a man named Vinant Wong, and basically it's the combination of Kundalini transmission with a non-dual state of consciousness energy transmission. So the way that that's done is I place my hand on different meridians, different energy center points, chakra points, and because we're all electric, we're all energy, everybody responds differently. But once I started doing CAP, like when I started personally incorporating it, it's super similar to like a psychedelic. It's just you're not doing any substance, but the level of consciousness expansion, energy expansion, trauma release, it's wild what this modality does. And this guy Vinant, he was a devotee of David Data, the tantric teacher, and then he did taekwondo for years, and then he did something called inner dance. So he kind of combined these different like energetic kundalini-ish, tantric-ish modalities and created this thing called CAP. So typically in sessions, like people will book, and I always say this, I don't need to know your name. I don't need to know anything about you. I just need to like have you walk in. I pretty much just close my eyes and feel into you. And I just I feel, and I see different parts of the energy field, your information system, which recently I actually was like, I had a moment in the middle of the night where I was like, information system. It's just because like we have the AI thing going on right now. And then I refer to like the ancestors as one information system, the angels as one information system. But I was kind of like, yeah, there's no crossover. Like that stuff's organic source. There's the other AI stuff. So, but it's funny how our like linguistics as humans can kind of like in a metaphorical way utilize things like my iOS system needs an upgrade and I need to delete that virus in my malware.
That's what Terence McKenna said about society. It feels like we all just have a bug in our system, and that there's just something wrong, and that it's simply a like a virus in a system, just like in a computer or something like this. Let me blow your mind real quick. What if there's a kind of shitty or real low tech example of AI in this system where we find ourselves, this realm, whatever this is, to give us an idea and maybe throw us off the scent that we are super sophisticated AI living in an organic type simulation, but we've just been convinced and are so therefore accessing what you did refer to as programs or systems. Maybe they're just programs within sort of a matrix, but we have a real technical one in front of us here as an example, sort of to throw us off the scent a little bit, like, oh, we're nothing like that, you know?
Yeah, I feel like, well, it's interesting because I've really thought about this many times, and especially with regard to like organic source, sentient, intelligence. And then there's like beings operating from a place that is apparently inorganic or artificial. I don't know how you feel about this, like with regard to people not having, like, that there's people that don't have souls. I don't, and clones and all the
It's one of my favorite
here already.
Honestly. We can keep going where you're going. I've noted it to come back to, please.
Okay. Well, I'm just going off of kind of what you said, like like that is very valid, very interesting.
If you want to do NPCs now, we can absolutely do it. What do you think?
Let's do it.
What are your thoughts on it, first of all? And this is all just we're just talking here. So just in the idea form of things, because this may go to a point, we've had the NPC conversation quite a bit. This may go to a point where it seems like we're cold-blooded and don't care about other people, which could not be further from the truth. But it's a philosophical conversation we're having here, full of let's supposies. So let's go stroll through our field of let's supposies. I like that. I'm going to start calling it that, actually. Anyway, so let's go pick some let's supposies with this. So NPCs, what do you think?
Like, meaning we're players in a game, like we're part of a larger system, but we're actually just like these tiny players in this simulation type thing.
That, or that there are a bunch of things out here, what other people have called other people, or we assume to be other people, even if they're not called that, but perhaps they're not all inhabited by sort of an awareness, sort of a consciousness to strive to do better, to grow, to all of those things, and they sort of act as anchor points for folks like you and I to grow where we're planted amongst a field of those. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know if I've even thought about it in that way.
Really?
Like, so I think that where I come from, like my awareness comes from is that the vastness of the greater intelligence is so potent, and in the same token, the intellect or the ego or the collective ego, or even some of this like more artificial, I guess, form of intelligence, which can in a sense like parallel or match up with the infinite in a way, I guess. Right now with where we are, it's like it keeps up like every millisecond. Like one thing that I do, I think I said this on one of the things we spoke on here, but when people come in, sometimes there's parts of their ego that is so programmed. Obviously all of ours has this, but when the words come out, it starts to show me like this line that starts to go zoot, 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 and it's almost like showing as the words are coming out from where they're coming out and through the person. So the ego, the intellect, usually they go into like an autopilot and they're just sort of regurgitating or saying something from a place of like not being in their consciousness. And it's a finite mechanism that is filling in the infinite. And like, I'll see it and I'll just kind of listen to them talk, and I'll see the structure that it's building around them. And it's usually just a box or a label. And it's very constricting, confining. Whereas I feel like on the other side, like in the side of being inorganic or unfolding, or it's like these lotus flowers just like going like this. When someone switches into a different mode in a session, like I'll see their face and then their face and their face and their face just continuing to fold out of their face versus being in that mode where they're like, blah, 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 and they're going like this with their words.
That's so wild. What you explained with the face in the face, that's what I experienced in my DMT, first smoke DMT experience in March of this year, was this shadow hat man figure that stood when all the fun shit disappeared and the Toontown element of it went away. And that's what he was doing. So it's a beautiful visualization you give, but he got like closer and closer and closer until it was like an inch away from my face and had zombie eye and shit. But what you talked about that phasing, so you can tell the difference in someone's energy. Is that usually the two that you get, or is that an either or is there a yes and to this? Is there more to it?
It feels like it's almost so, it's definitely like my guides or their guides are super creative with the visuals that they show. But the ones that they show are typically, those can be the most common ones if they're in like a state of robotic or regurgitation or unconsciousness, or even let's see, like if they've been too influenced by technology, like if they're a computer programmer, if they video game, if they, and no shame on video gaming or any of that stuff. It's just the inundation of the blue light and just staring at a screen takes us as these light beams and shrinks. It's like the light beam, instead of being like your internal sun being in the heart and then shining outward, when someone's ingesting a lot of tech stuff, the light is coming from the outside in, like the false, I guess like the false light, the false sun. Because when humans get addicted in that way, they're looking out and into something that has a source of light, but it's not like an organic sun. And then that blue light that comes in, it like corrodes at the expansive, like just sort of natural essence of our light, of our beingness. And someone's aura can be very gray, their skin can be more yellow, like they can have these big black circles under their eyes, and it's very exaggerated, especially when I'm dropped in sessions. So it's like I may say that, and if someone else were to walk by them in a store, they wouldn't be like, I don't really see that. So that was kind of a circular way of answering that. But like, yes, for every single person, it's very different, which is why if someone's like, what's the session like? I'm just like, oh gosh. I mean, the best way I could describe it is just like conducting one with you. And then that's the only way you'll know. And it's interesting because I have thought about this, like if I were to try to assist more people on a broader scale, which is what I'm trying to do right now, building a course, it's only to be more efficient at helping people do this for themselves. Because it is like, if you were to think about me just trying to help one person at a time, it's so much energy going into one person, and it can be very helpful and transformative and life-changing, because like they just start to see things from our true vision, all of our true visions, just by hearing it enough. But I mean, it's like there's tons of practitioners who do what I do in different ways and who are figuring it out on the business side, which is something that hasn't been it's something I'm expanding into, is what I'll say.
Absolutely. You're growing and learning together, and this value exchange model has been a very interesting one. And one moving forward that's really been on my radar lately, and one I've just been speaking about a lot, is sort of this idea that you can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created it. And I think that this is going to affect the way that we perceive value a lot differently. And I'm sort of reminded of the Abraham Hicks thing where she's talking about, or they're talking about, that, you know, there's such an inequality for what you're being paid in money, and what we've decided is that versus what you're actually contributing in worth. And so I think value and worth are what are being reformatted, which is why there are sort of struggles moving forward with this. There's perceived struggles, but the only struggle in it is that we're still perceiving it from the old way of consciousness, right? And so there's been this growing pains element to it, but a very liberating one about finding new avenues, redefining what value means, and not saying that it's some standard that's printed, that's held, and it's just an interesting way that we're reframing value now, which I feel is way more equivalent to what actual value is. And there are just so many services and things in place that are taking part in this, and it's fascinating. So I would say to sort of relieve your mind and anybody else's out there who's been feeling that has been a challenge, well, you're not alone in that. That again is, I feel, that old paradigm breaking away, and there's something new coming, and we're really open for it, and we're all creating it together. So that may be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, especially like, because social media, I mean, you and I have talked about this, social media, there's now this new thing called Threads, which I'm still trying to figure out. It's like a new Twitter almost.
I think things like that, honestly, are to keep content creators going nuts on infrastructure and logistics and all that, rather than just sharing messages from just whatever backgrounds. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm really into production and stuff like that for the show. I just have standards and audio and things like that. But as far as getting on the next big thing and then hopping on trends, I've watched accounts be just tanked by an algorithm, or I've watched people get just really unhappy with their progress, and they'll do everything the algorithm said they should, and then it tanks because the algorithm changes so much. And then interestingly, let's say one was more of a long format, and then they started doing shorts because that was very important to YouTube, right? They were competing with Instagram and the reels over there, and then TikTok as well. So YouTube was like pumping the algorithm for anybody that was taking part in shorts, which were under 59 seconds. That was very important, not a minute. If you go to a minute, they go vertical or they go horizontal and you're done. They need to be vertical format in 59 seconds. And so a bunch of people did that. But what it did was it took all their followers, their fans of that long form, and it threw them in a completely new category that had no time for what they really offered. And so it just fucked the algorithm, honestly. And so this is what's interesting about sort of chasing those dragons as well, because that's what it feels like. I feel on this that we are very much here to create our own shit. And we do it through the mechanisms that are available to us, but also those are just templates right now for us to create better. This is why whenever I have a guest on, if you'll notice, I don't link all their socials, I link their website. And that's very important because all your socials are linked on your website. We want people to support you in your home and to see what you've created, right? So there's a lot of value exchange modalities that we are inviting the audience to participate in as well, which is new ways of supporting, which is if you find something valuable, participate in it. If you're pissed off that Netflix is doing whatever you feel that they are, because the alternative researchers that you're very into have shown you some things that have told you that that's what's going on, then withdraw your energy in that, withdraw your participation. And this is really where it boils down to here, Mary. What do you think about just pulling your attention from the shit that you don't like? Do you think it's easier said than done, or absolutely that easy?
Like, do you mean stuff I don't like in general, or just related to?
Yeah, just in general, just energies, people, movies. If your taste change, foods, you could just withdraw your energy from something. Like drinking, for instance. When I quit drinking, it was 20 years of hard drinking and a family's worth of all that shit, but I quit and I haven't touched it in over 2 years, but no withdrawals, no anything. So I was just able to pull out of it because I recognized that it wasn't something moving forward. I saw it as the ancestor healing it was, all these things. And then it was just off. It was just a switch I flipped. But some folks, have a tough time on withdrawing, let's say, from the media, and not getting news and feeling uninformed if they don't get news. Do you feel that that's the case? Or that, again, back to that's the example, is withdrawing your energy from stuff like that?
I mean, I will just say, I feel I was literally just with a friend who was kind of like, he was like, I feel like when we have conversations, I have to be very vigilant with my energy and what I say, because he's very much in the world and culture. He's in fashion. He surrounds himself. He wasn't living in New York. He was in LA. So he's like he's in the know. He's who's who, what's what. And he's like, but with you, it's like, you are so like conscious of everything you say. And he's like, I can tell when you like you basically kind of contract just when the conversation goes to a certain place. So my point is, I definitely feel like in my part of my journey is in a place of more like lone wolf or solitude, and I keep getting these messages from spirit where it's like, okay, you've spent enough time with that person or that group of people, like pull back a little bit. Or and I'm just like, well, I'm having fun, I want to. And it's like, you have to stay focused. And it's like I keep getting redirected. And the same thing goes for entertainment consumption. I have a TV, but I never use it. I turn on like Netflix and Hulu every once in a while just to give myself like a break. I have not had alcohol since 2014. And that was like a conscious choice because I was coping with like trauma and depression in a way that wasn't healthy. It wasn't necessarily alcohol or addictive, but it was like using it in an unhealthy way. So I just like made the choice, and I have not had it since, because as time went by, especially when you eliminate alcohol, it's like your body, you become so clear and so light in your body. And I say to a lot of people, I'm like, the number one way to start tuning into your gifts and your sensitivity is to eliminate alcohol. And I know we've talked about this. But yeah, like if I have my TV on and it happens to be on cable, and a commercial comes on, like I'll mute it because I don't want to hear any of that. I don't want anything being programmed into my mind. And it's like, there are points where I let myself listen to whatever music, because music is everything to me. So it's in all genres. So
Yeah.
it's like, so, but there are days where I might feel a little bit more energetically porous. Those are the days where I pull back from interaction. I usually will have, like, let's say a couple sessions, and then I retreat into nature. And it's like, I'm living in Southern California, so it's extremely saturated here, really intense energy. And like when I went to Sweden, my first time there, have you been to that region?
Yeah, my future self says it's awesome. So yeah.
Oh my gosh. I have like Scandinavian in my blood. So like I do feel there was definitely a connection. But as soon as my layover was in Copenhagen in Denmark, the airport was pristine. It was peaceful. It was like quiet. And then I landed in Gothenburg, Sweden. And as soon as I got there, I was like, I could just feel the energy all wrapped around me. It was like a utopic society. And whatever their government system is their government system. But like what I was experiencing was the people, the harmoniousness of the way they were living. And granted, when I was there, they had like a heat wave. So there happened to be like perfect weather, perfect sun for a week straight, which is normally never the case. So they were all like, this is very unusual. So don't get tricked by this. The weather's usually really cold and rainy and dark.
You brought it with you. Yeah. That's awesome. It's so cool that you get to have experiences like that. So what was the greatest takeaway from that experience?
So I think connecting with people, the women from Germany, from France, from Amsterdam, a couple women living in Ibiza, a couple women from Ukraine and Russia. So because this CAP modality is much more popular in Europe. I mean, the founder, his wife is Swedish, they live in Costa Rica. So it's like, I noticed culturally the difference is that I think in the States, there's more, like, I guess maybe more fear around deep energy work like this. Because when I do conduct CAP sessions with people, they have to sign a waiver. Because when you do any type of deep energy stuff, you have to be so, mindful and careful about who you're working with, and who, and that they're informed of like this is what's going down. You are in charge of your own energy, and these different things are possibilities that can happen. But I think it felt nice being the one American amongst a sea of women from all over the world. And I felt like it was very refreshing. And it was interesting too, because when I was in Sweden, one of the guys in the local town was like, he was saying something to me, and I was like, "You sound like you have an American accent." And he goes, "No, I lived there for a few years, but I moved back to Sweden 16 years ago." And he was like, we brought up the thing that happened a couple years ago, and he goes, "Yeah, I mean, it didn't even exist here. Nobody wore masks. It wasn't a topic." So I definitely felt on like a radio wave static energy frequency the difference. And granted, I flew into LAX, which was like flew out of LAX and back into LAX. And when I flew back into LAX, just the level of chaos, and not to like get too into that, negativity or anything, but it was just like the energetic difference, the climate of all of what we're thinking, of all of what we're feeling collectively. It just was a reminder of how much we do all affect each other by proximity. And then obviously like across the globe as well. But that was a huge takeaway, which was completely separate from the actual training, but that's always something where I feel like a part of my awareness is always like kind of tuning into like that energetic temperature, I guess.
Yeah, it's a great way to put it. It's very interesting because it does make sense that it would be such a healing place that you went. You were there for a week, you said?
Mm-hmm.
So you're there for a week. You have this incredible feeling amongst all this energy. And I'm sure geographically that had a lot to do with it. There's some crazy stuff they're saying that's happening at the North Pole, you're a lot closer to that than you are in California. So maybe the energy and the location had something to do with it. But yes, coming absolutely back to LA, it's a heavy ass place. I've been there one time and it was heavy. It was just very, very heavy is the way I can explain it. It was fun. And I was like on tour. So we were going through there. I met with a label and then headed to Vegas after that, but did not want to stay the night. We actually didn't stay the night. We went in town, met the label, went to Santa Monica Pier, did something on Sunset, and then we were gone. But same thing in that time period, it's just super heavy, but you can feel it. So have you thought about just absolutely just moving to Texas and coming and living in our backyard with my wife, Mary? And my wife's name is Mary as well. And so you two are cute. Holla. She's watching. She adores
you. I'm curious to hear more about your little tour jaunt and to hear more about your experience in LA. So I'll just quickly say, yes, I have absolutely thought about moving. I've thought about, there's my breathwork teacher, David Elliott. He has his property in New Mexico, Cyndia Park, closer to Santa Fe. The first time I went there, I was absolutely blown away by the energy of the mountains. With anyone who's clairaudient, that when you can be around nature and you feel like the mountains are speaking to you or the trees are speaking to you, it's really like the activation of your clairaudience. And if you're feeling overwhelmed with that, a way to like, I guess, release some of that energy or let it sort of flow is to write or sing. Writing is my thing. So, but when I went to New Mexico, I couldn't believe I was able to get way more still and into that state of deep listening and this is something I plan to like help people with in my course, where you train yourself to get into such this still place where all of like the thoughts kind of go here. Like you don't push them, but you actually more so tap into a deeper energetic place of like, radiation isn't the right word, but you kind of tap into a different center point where you start to almost like spin, but you're not moving. You're just in a different type of energy that's actually always spinning, like within our spine. And our spine has like a million eyes. And then it's like the concept of quadrality, which is like where like we have the front part of our perception, the top part of our perception, the bottom part of our perception. Like there's like 4 aspects of our seeing, feeling, hearing, and sensing. And as these negative interdimensional influences are dying away because of what the collective has done to like bring in more light and do these mass meditations or have conversations like this, or light workers, whatever you want to call it, has allowed for some of these control systems that have like overlaid over the torsion field that goes over our earth, and put like this false grid over it. From what I've sensed and felt and received, and then from what I've just heard from others too, getting the same messages, that false structure that's like encoded itself into the torsion field that goes around our globe has actually is purging, is released. Like we're now kind of moving into that heaven on earth timeline, I guess.
Little 5D action.
Little 5D action.
Roll it.
Okay, but I don't want to forget, because you were in Santa Monica only for one,
Like
there
like
once?
10 hours, maybe. Yeah. Like 10 hours, like one day. Yeah, I was
I'm
on tour. I
shocked.
had that guitar back there, and I did a West Coast tour, and so it was like, God, it was almost 2 months long. Just me and a buddy in a van, and I just went solo with my guitar and booked this whole thing up through Colorado, and just went to all the places I wanted to go. Right, so Colorado, like 3 or 4 stops there, and then over through the north part of Utah, like Salt Lake, and then up through Oregon, and then back down the PCH all the way down. And LA was the most south we went. Yeah, because we went through Santa Barbara, and then San Francisco was cold as shit. It was like 34 degrees. We just did mushrooms the night before in July 4th in Oregon, Bend, Oregon, on a roof for the 4th of July watching fireworks. That's how I remember. And then the next day, or a few days later, we were in San Francisco, and I'm like wearing a hoodie in July. It was freezing cold. I was like, what the hell is going on? But then LA we went to, and had that meeting with that label, which was good. And then went over to the pier, got in the Pacific Ocean because I wanted to say I did. I got like this much of my foot in, was like, fuck this. It was so cold. I was like, no, absolutely not. And then left. And then
So funny.
we went down to Sunset, and there was this guy walking on Sunset that was all dressed in black with black platform shoes that were huge. It was all leathered out. White painted, this person painted their face absolutely white, wore huge black glasses, a long black wig, and then pictured that exact same thing, size and all, in backpack form on his back. So he had a life-size doll of himself dressed exactly like himself at the time on his back that he was carrying around down Sunset. Now, I don't know if he thought that it was like fooling people, like if somebody was going to sneak up behind him or something like this, but it was just really, really interesting. And I thought, okay. And we ended up finding a headshot, buying a little piece with a sun on it, and named it Sunset because it was right on Sunset Boulevard. Took pictures of the sign, and then said, okay, that's enough. Oh, ate In-N-Out, by the way. This was like
Thoughts?
18 years ago, maybe. So it was a while. So it
What?
wasn't like
18 years ago?
something like that. 18 or 19 years ago, something like that. It was a while back. Anyway, the In-N-Out was not everywhere like it was now, right? And so it was only in California. So I was like, oh, well, we got to do this. And my buddy the guy was stationed out there for the military, whatever. So he's like, oh, we have to do this In-N-Out. It's like the best thing ever. No offense to anybody out there. I was underwhelmed. I will say that.
Everybody says that. Everybody who like isn't from Cal, they're always like, this is it. These soggy fries and this like flat patty. I don't know, man. I don't eat a lot of meat, but I just when I get a hankering, I go for the 4x4.
That's your jam. Because
with the
those are a
lettuce.
regular in Texas, we just call that a patty. Like what you call four, we just call that a burger. So you just come out to Texas and we just actually give you your money's worth out here.
Wait, so you guys don't, okay, so if you
No,
have a
we have
burger
that.
and you stack 4 patties,
Uh-huh.
you just call it a burger.
Well, we wouldn't do that because we give you proper patties in the first place. Okay. Like we wouldn't put four of those because that's asinine. That's silly. Only y'all would fall for Californians would fall for this four patty nonsense. No, no, no. It's four of them. No, it's better. This is like whatever you tell a kid, you'll give him um like a dime instead of his 5 pennies, and he's like, fuck you, I've got five of them, you know what I mean? So they don't understand the value. And this is what I'm feeling here in this hamburger conversation. We've got to get you out to Texas. I will make you a burger. We'll stack four of them if you want, but it's not going to be something
I went to this place in, was it Austin or was it Dallas? No, it was Dallas, and it was like some famous barbecue place. The level of like, just first of all, my own serving was like sausage, this slab of rib, this like, and I'm like, how do y'all eat
very good.
all of that? And
Don't.
like, you look the way you do, it's like
we don't.
do you eat that much do you eat that much of it? Like,
No,
will
my
you,
wife and I would split something like that. Like we'd split it, we'd get a few things, and then we do that. Like we don't overeat. There are tons of people that do. So those folks do not necessarily represent all Texans clearly.
yes, yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
yes, there is a lot of that, and there's a lot of indulgence around here, especially if you go to the state fair or something like that. They deep fry everything. They have deep fried
Okay.
ice cream, deep fried Snickers, like they just fry everything, and it's wild.
Are you guys gonna go to the state fair?
I have been offered so many times. I just don't want to. I don't want to fuck with it, to be honest with you. It's such a hassle to drive down there, and it's way in Dallas. We're not Dallas people anyway. We live way out in the country on the other side of what we call Fort Worth. So Fort Worth and Dallas are not at odds with one another. They're just different vibes. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
I know this about Texans with like
Yeah. So
Houston, Dallas, Austin.
Fort Worth is Sweden, and they're that airport, and Dallas is LAX. Okay, there you go.
We have
That's
any Dallas people listening. They're gonna be like, wow.
that's fine. No, no, no. Dallas people are welcome, and they can come out to our place, and I'll show you that it's far superior energetically. That's all. That's all I'm saying. I would never cast. I'm not throwing stones. I'm just saying where we're at is very, very different from what you're talking about. We serve actual burgers out here. It's crazy.
Oh my gosh, so funny.
This is a show about consciousness and enlightenment. I love this. I love this. This is a show about real. It's people. So whenever you come out to Texas, this is going to be great. So yes, I went to Santa Monica and all that stuff, and we were there, and it was nice, and then bounced, and then I was like, okay, let's get to Vegas, and then that was more weird. And I'm just not that type of person, you know. And it's even back then when I was like in my 20s and on tour and all that stuff. I've never been a fan of strip clubs. I have nothing against people in the sex work industry. If anybody wants to do that, that's absolutely fine and perfect. I am not a fan. That has never appealed to me, is the way that I'll put it. I've got nothing against it. And there's obviously a huge market for it, which is why it's extremely successful, and I have nothing against it. But like I said, that type of thing just didn't appeal to me in the same way I guess it was supposed to, or it was marketed to. And so even that, like all the like club scene and stuff like that, I just never got into it. You know what I mean? Maybe when I was like 18 and doing a lot of ecstasy, I definitely back then would go to like clubs, you know, like stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Not but that was just because of the music and the lights, you know what I mean?
So did you feel like you thought LA was energetically denser than Vegas?
That's a great question. Yes, because LA seems pretty seated. Vegas seems temporary. It seems like a place to blow off steam. LA seems like it's very entrenched in the ground. You know what I mean?
That's a
Vegas
good
doesn't
point.
seem like a real place. It feels like an out of bounds place.
Yeah. So the energy, I haven't spent a bunch of time in Vegas, but like I feel like I get this feeling of what's it? Claustrophobia.
Yeah. Yeah, in a world because it's so sensory apprehended. You know, they do everything down to what the oxygen they're pumping into the room, the color patterns of things, the fact there's no windows, like the temperatures, like all of this stuff, the alcohol content to ice and drink, like everything is so tailored. The volume of things. Uh,
Even New York too.
yeah, that's interesting. I think of New York like Gotham, like Batman's running around there because it's so heavy and dense and like dark. And it seems like, LA and New York, they sort of anchor these 2 points on either end as like a swath that goes across.
Yeah, and it's like I used to judge myself, I think, when I would feel just this inundation of like what was around me in these places, because I was like, because you can kind of at certain points in your journey like misconstrue that as, is this just me being, whatever, but it's like when you're in, like when I think about downtown LA or even like New York, certain parts of New York, and I don't want to like bash these places or anything, but it's like you walk out of these high-rise buildings that the quality of your living and what you're paying for is surely not what you're getting. And then like you might be paying, I don't even know what the rent is in New York, but you could be paying like $3,000 for like a one bedroom in a certain maybe-ish nice part of New York, or decent, safe. You've got graffiti all over the doors, like there's all this stuff going on in the street right outside. You walk outside and it smells like urine and puke and like it's and then there's no nature. It's just like a concrete jungle, and everybody is in this like that rat race like mindset, the pace. And then I find that because I have clients in New York, so it's like the drug use is high. The high functioning like Wall Street, or even just whatever, someone who's working at a fast moving corporate company, um it's like as beings, in order to keep, to be a cog in that wheel and keep that system functioning at the level that it is, there's like a system within a system that you sort of have to like sell parts of yourself to, meaning like a temporary substance abuse syndrome or whatever, like meaning you got to do cocaine to work on your Wall Street hours, and then you've got a sex addiction, and you've got a wife, but there's like so many, but it's so normalized, and they're getting high on this false supply, and then lifespan gets cut to, I don't know, young 60s, of where you get your heart attack before you retire. And that's like one little example. But and there's so many beautiful places, and there's upstate New York, and there's people doing amazing things, and it's just, I'm only focused on like one small niche, but like it's, I think what I get fascinated by is when I see people walking around and I can see, like, it just takes one look into their eyes of like the suffering that they're living in, and how they're so stuck. They feel trapped. And yes, there's the concept of sovereignty and knowing, and victim consciousness, and knowing like, okay, I have the choice to change this, and I can. But even people who know they have the choice and maybe know that they can, still have so much density in their body and powerlessness on like a broader systemic level, because of, I guess, maybe what's going on globally, that there's like that's a trippy trap that I've seen, where people, they know and they can, but they're like, but fuck, I just don't, I've like lost the will. It's like, and there's like the label of depression, but it's like that's where I think these ancient practices, and like breath work, and also, I mean, I'll always say this, alcohol, it's like put that one out the door for for a while, and that will really help with just like, okay, then you got to get up in the morning and do that jog. It's like slow breadcrumbs. But I think the most common thing I see with clients is that there's like a energy, this, I guess I'll describe the way I can feel it. Okay, so there's like an energy that people can come in with where it's like, um I can hear their thought forms. I can feel their body. And what I notice is that the thought forms can be like marbles in a jar, but their body is so dense because they're either drinking a lot or they're eating a lot or prescription medications. It's a huge one. Um, and then there's the trauma underneath that kind of keep them in this weird purgatory of like, I've got these marbles in a jar thoughts going on, but I've numbed it enough. And now I can kind of just stay in this state of like, I guess for lack of a better word, purgatory, and keep kind of chugging along here. And that's where that self-love aspect and like the love frequency, it's almost like there's been such a lack of it and such a starvation of it for so long, and maybe not even a reference of it, that the way that they're getting by is just enough, because anything before that or anything other than what they're doing now in that moment is better than it was. It's just working now. And so it's almost like, okay, well, do you want to take the quantum leap, into some ambiguous territory where you're trusting something that is here for you to experience and embody. And I think people, because of this quick fix, like now thing, people don't like to, if they're doing something like breath work, let's say even just one time, some people can just be like, 30 minutes of breath work, are you serious? I'm like,
It's amazing.
oh, you got to try 30 minutes in 30 days before we have this conversation.
Yeah. Utah is incredible.
Utah?
Yeah, we wife and I went to Utah for the Contact at the Canyon events that Grimerica holds. We were invited.
Oh my gosh, I wanted to go to Contact in the Canyon.
Come next August, not this August, 24th. You should come. You should absolutely come. We're already going. We're committed. They asked us to come back. Brandon Powell, the breathwork Wim Hof guy.
Okay.
He goes. Yeah, he's the guy that leads the breathwork. It's
okay, I'm gonna like just type this in so I don't forget.
Yeah. We'll do all this. Like, you've got to go. Plus, we're planning a huge epic road trip this time. My wife and I drive to this thing. It was only 17 and a half hours. And I do say only, and that's how we feel about it. So we stayed in Farmington, New Mexico the first night and then went on the next day. And it was incredible. So this time we're actually going a lot earlier. And so you ought to just fly to Dallas, which will feel heavy. But the further the car ride out to where we are, you'll get lighter and lighter and lighter. And then you we'll get a proper burger on the way on too. But yes, no, he does this breathwork thing. And that was when I felt my inner body rocking inside of me. Like the third day that we did it, it was so intense. And I felt like my inside, because we do the hold, you do the 60% exhale after the long breath works. And it was at like the end of the session. So this was one of the last holds. And he's not saying anything for 2 minutes. So you're sitting there holding your breath for 2 minutes, if you can, at a 60% exhale. And you do like the short little as your recovery breath. But I always found the recovery breath is what sent me over. Excuse me, what sent me over to really go deep. And that's when I could hold longer. I had voices in my head just saying, we're here with you, be here. And it was wild, but I was like completely still with my body, absolutely still and relaxed, laying on the ground. And I felt inside me something that felt like its arms were like this, and it was rocking. Like it felt like my whole soul was jittering. And it felt like I was this close to just like separating out of my body. It was the only time I've ever felt like that. And breath work, not psychedelics. I've been a psychonaut for well over 20 years, and no amount of 10 strip of acid made me ever feel like that. And this was just fucking breath work. It was amazing.
I mean, that's like the thing with the breath work that's so, I think, powerful is how, because like psychedelics are beautiful. And I think that
they have their place. Yeah.
The world would really benefit if everybody, like opened themselves to that and all these things. Breath work, I feel like, is the gate, like is a great start. And it's like, but it's also I think because it's so simple, and it's just like in at least for the one that I teach, the 2-part pranayama, it's so simple that that monkey brain is like, what, wait, why? And it takes like the first 5 to 7 minutes to go through that. And I notice people will get caught in that loop. And especially if they're really like kind of what I was saying before, like they've been in that place for a few years, of course they're gonna it's gonna you know, you're breathing and you're activating your hypothalamus so that naturally that ego is gonna get louder and louder and louder. But if you just like go right past that 7-minute mark, about like the 7 to 9 minute mark, that's when you start to slowly surrender. And it's interesting because a lot of people will have an experience, but then they'll kind of pull out of it and be like, oh, wow, I'm only realizing that I had an experience now as I'm sitting up versus like that whole time I was in it, because it's just in hindsight, like they kind of sit up and they're like, whoa, I actually totally had an experience because I feel like a completely different person than I did before I just laid down. And this is for people that are more like just more like newer or starting their journey. So
Shit, even people have been on the journey for a long ass time, done a lot of psychedelics, a lot of altered states. This was transcendental. I mean, it was so interesting. I would classify it as a psychedelic state. I mean, you're activating that androgynous DMT within you and that shit that's released right before you die. So you are fucking with death. And that's what Brandon Powell said. He's like, that's the deal, is that we don't dance with death. We walk over and tap it on the shoulder and just stare at it and talk to it. And you do. And that's what I felt. That's what I feel I felt whenever my body was doing that thing on the inside. It was like I was that close to just passing out and dying. I mean, of course you'll just pass out and then breathe, but it's like you're this, like the veil is very thin here. It's like you could just be gone. And it's an interesting thing to just be able to put yourself there with your breath. It's just fascinating. We did cold plunges too. Do you do cold plunges?
I've done a couple and I do them in the ocean here sometimes.
Yeah.
I love cold
Do
plunges.
you? Okay.
How do you feel about that?
We did it and immediately hyperventilated, like immediately to a very uncomfortable level. And we're with like 5 people. So it wasn't an embarrassment thing. I don't care. It wasn't about that. It was a mental thing for me. I wanted to make sure that I could do it and then stay the whole time, right? It was a 3-minute cold plunge. He said at the end, if you really want to go for it, go ahead and dunk your head underneath or whatever. And absolutely, in for a penny, in for a pound, we did. But immediately sitting in, it was right when it got to here, like I could just you just can't, I could not catch my breath. And so mentally I'm sitting here and I'm just saying, we're here with you, it's okay, just be still, just breathe. And so Brandon shifted around to the front of the pool, and like my wife is here and our friend Ksenia, and we had a bunch of people, and a member of mine who just happened to be going anyways. He's expansive insider, and a guy named Drew, shout out. And he was right there with me, and then another guy, Will, was right behind me, like in my ear, like, you can do this, and of course I couldn't say it out loud, but I was over the hump of, I wasn't going to get out. It wasn't like I was going to bail. I just wanted my breath. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so that's where it really got to like okay, just calm down. And that was it. Like before I could speak, I was, for about 30 seconds, I knew I was fine, but I couldn't say it. You know what I mean? So it was like, okay, are you okay? I was like, I'm fine. I was trying to nod, but it was intense. And then my wife crushed, she just sat down like a champ. The whole 3 minutes, we both went under, got out afterwards. We got a attaboy Texas from a guy from Canada, and we called it a day. And so since then, we figured we're sauna people. Being here from Texas, we're fine with heat.
Do you get panic attacks?
I'd like to say no. I'd like to say I've gotten one once, and I feel like I'm really great at managing my thoughts to where, and not even managing, my awareness of my thoughts, where I stop spirals before they start, because I could easily, but as far as like being naturally panicky, no, not at all. I would not put myself in that category.
No, I know that, but I mean, like sometimes the cold plunges can trigger that in people if that's something that they have. But
I
it
didn't
sounds
know
like
that.
you?
I mean, I had one like maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was when I was on the job. Like, it was a very stressful time, and it was all job and stress and shit like that, and so it was a big deal. But that was the only one I've ever had. But beyond that, after that, I felt them sort of like, okay, I can see like 10 thoughts from now where this is going to be tricky. So let's just go
Yeah.
ahead. Let's go ahead and stop it here. And I at least have that awareness. But it's interesting that a cold plunge would trigger something like that, because that is a mode, right? You're panicking. You're like, hey, your body's like, dude, we don't want to do this. Like, you're not supposed to do this. It's a
Yeah.
whole thing.
Well, I just know like some people they just go into the shock, and then it like that because I know I don't experience them, but I work with enough people who do, and it's always kind of the same description where it's just the thoughts that actually start to drive it, and then it's the
Yeah.
thoughts and the physical and the thoughts and the physical, and
Right.
so it's that thing where they go into this shock place, and then they're like, oh, and then the thoughts start to do that thing, and and if they can continue to do these practices and get to that place like where you just you can recognize, okay, I'm 10 thoughts ahead of where I know it can go, so I'm just not going to go there.
Yeah.
Because then I feel like everybody who's kind of overcome them, that's where they get to that place where they're like, okay, I can see where this is going, I know this is arising, but it's not going to happen because I have the power.
Yes.
And I think some people just feel like they don't.
It's an easy thing to lose yourself in. And I only am where I am, and I tread lightly on the fact on my confidence on this, even, and just speaking about this, I tread lightly because I know a few thoughts away, and it's only a couple of dominoes that can tip to send me there. And it's an interesting thing to know about yourself and to realize. And so I created this egregore called a thought ninja, and my thought ninja gets up there, and I set a vibrational threshold. I'm sure I told you about this, but I set a vibrational threshold for my thoughts. And if they don't meet that standard, my thought ninja comes in with his katana and absolutely cuts that fear tentacle, that parasite, out before it is allowed to take root. And so I have little conversations with my thought ninja. He is incredible. And I'm just like, hey, thought ninja, I'm leaning on you, buddy, or hey, you're doing a great job. Like, he'll catch one. And I'll be like, dude, outstanding. And I'll just hear this height in my head. And it's so cool because it's my
Okay,
thought ninja.
is this a guide or is this a part of you? I need you to explain
Have I
it.
not talked about this?
You have, but like maybe not
For the audience, probably not. This is a
granular.
new show. Yeah. It's yeah, so there was a really dark time, it's about a year ago, actually, about 1 year ago exactly. Very dark time for me mentally. I took myself to the lowest end I could mentally. Well, that I'm not that I can. I'd never be so. I'd never have the hubris. I took myself as deep as I wanted to then, and it was really really dark, like very fucking dark. And I got to this place where I was counting on one hand reasons to stay here, kind of shit. You know what I mean? So I
Yeah.
was like, okay, well, I'm not, there's too much amazing stuff going on there, too many amazing things to ever allow my mind to get here, which is exactly how I felt. I felt it was a parasite of some kind. I don't necessarily subscribe to like entities, evil entities, or things like that, but I did feel that it was something, an aspect of me that was very scared moving forward with what we were doing. And it has been challenged a lot in the past 2 years with quitting the job, right? With the wife having panic attacks because of it at the very beginning. We're way past all this now, but there was a big shock to that aspect of me that's done a great job and kept me alive this whole damn time. And, for 24, 23 years, I completely depended on that thing because right after high school, 2 days after graduation, I moved out. And that dude has been behind the wheel and done a great job of keeping us alive to this point, right? So I'm now asking that dude to take the back seat, and it just spiraled. It bad spiraled, and then that guy was taunting me the whole time, and so that spiraled, and it was just very very dark. So I came up with a mechanism, a bouncer for that thought, right? I at least realized that I needed to investigate my thoughts a little further and to look into what they were, which is like Ram Dass said, just observe your thoughts like leaves floating down the river, right? Have no feeling about them one way or another. Don't judge them because they're not yours. And so then I thought, well, whose fucking thoughts are these? Who is this asshole, that's running around in here going against all the things that we stand for and desire and actually embody and live. And why is this one dude able to come in here and dump in?
Think of a moment, like you're literally, you're like activating something in me. Keep going.
Okay.
Sorry.
So this dude, I just said, hey, look, we're changing our standard, right? And that starts with your thoughts. It starts with the way that you perceive reality, the way your RAS is wired, all of these things. And so in that process, I set basically I treated my mind like a new club. Actually, it was an old club that had been renovated, and there was just a bad crowd in there before, and it was just a bunch of ruffians, right? And so now the club is under new management. And so I just basically put a sign outside that said, hey, under new management, no big deal, but here's the vibrational threshold, the equivalent to a dress code, let's say, to stick with the club analogy. Okay. So thoughts would wander in that would be these tentacles that would say, hey, this is going to really get him, and this is going to get these chemicals sending because we're used to this, and this is how we treat these things. And then my thought ninja would just politely say, hey, no big deal. You're wearing the wrong shoes, right? You're just not dressed for this place. You're not at a vibrational level to enter. So you can just kindly move on. Now you can change your shoes. You can come back with better energy, alchemize yourself, and come back, and you're absolutely welcome. So there's no judgment for them. They're just not allowed past my thought ninja. And inside, it's an amazing club. Everything's happening there. There's ideas flowing, creativity, service is just boom, boom, boom. Things are connecting like crazy. And it's because the things that kept me from being that productive and inflow and connected to higher self and all of that, those things are no longer welcome at the party. Now, those doesn't mean those elements aren't there. It doesn't mean those aspects don't pop their head every now and then, but they're not allowed here with my attention. They're not allowed to play with my energy and my attention at all. They don't get any of my power. And now they just don't come back around. They either alchemize or I just don't hear from them anymore. Sort of like friends in real life, right? Or anything like that. Whenever you vibe up, when you level up, you're going to vibrate out of your friend zone. Now, a lot of people look at this like I lost all my friends. No, they lost you because they couldn't keep up. And this is how I feel with the thoughts. They drifted away. And I found that there was one day about 3 weeks into this where I came home and told my wife, I was like, oh my God, I didn't have one intrusive thought today. And actually, like, I caught them all, kind of a thing. You know what I mean? I saw myself just go, nope, we no longer think this, or nope, that's no longer welcome. Thought Ninja also has some subsidiary sort of skills that he brings to the equation that I didn't even know about. He's just a tulpa. He's something I made up, right? An egregore to help me, because his survival is based on my happiness and survival, right? So if he's doing his job of maintaining our thoughts, we both thrive together. And so it's a cooperative thing. Now, a bunch of people have taken this and ran. I've talked about this on a lot of guest spots on other shows. Some people have their own ninjas of sword. My wife, Mary, has her own little fleet of fairies. So hers is a whole swarm of these badass fairies that are just these super goddess fairies, right? That just attack whatever thought, then it's fucking vaporized. So you put a very visual element to this. And my little thought ninja dude, he spins in, he's got the katana. I'm into comics and shit like that. So it's real animated and it's very visual for me. And so I see that is no longer a part of me, kind of a thing.
Okay, first of all, I just want to thank you because that period that you went through brought forth this thought ninja, which is Brandon. This thought ninja is freaking Brandon. He is this part of Brandon that had that, expanding reality where we're sitting right now needs thought ninja, needs Brandon, needs so now I totally understand. And what happened as you were talking, I'm going to have to try to catch this again to see if I can remember, but it was like you said something really specific and all of a sudden it was just like, ah! And I was like, oh shit, like this activation started happening. I was like, whoa. And it's nothing, it's like this thing we've all heard many times, but it's like, okay, so you went through this period, like you something triggered you to like this opening, like something triggered an opening is how I'm seeing it visually, where it may seem like this, but I just see this, where all this new light and expansive cosmic void like also energy, like the same with light and then the shadow, whatever. Like I don't even like to use the word shadow because I don't even see it as that. I see it actually more as you stepped into like this big a void opened, like a wider space.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, like because you were talking and I was literally seeing this happen, and it was this like echoes, and then sort of like maybe some energy of like nihilism or just like just just a new experiencing of something that you were looking into, a part of the human personality was reflecting into. And then what came, what you had to like, how you had to rise, it's like a phoenix, like another one of that phoenix rising out of the ashes moment. And then you came out of that with a whole new medicine, like that you could not have gone, you couldn't have accrued had you not gone through that. And you know, it's like you now know, looking in hindsight, that was all supposed to happen. It happened exactly on the right time. There are no mistakes. It
Yeah.
is what it is. It's like, I don't know if it was, and it's almost like what I'm gathering is like you stumbled into it. Like there were things you were actually doing that like I keep seeing you running, and then you run it, you like accidentally run into this corridor, and then it's like Alice in Wonderland where you fly in, and then there's like this spinning.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it's like, whoa, whoa. And it's like this recalibration for a while. I can feel like the intensity of that's like a very real, but you can only that, I mean, that feels like an initiation almost,
Yeah. Yeah.
where you accrued a whole
On a
new.
couple weeks ago too, and it's been about a month. A new initiation. Again, never have. I'm so hesitant to have confidence when it comes to this stuff because I feel that there are just more challenges ahead that will make me feel that that's not the case, and that's where I'm at with this. Honestly, it's this hesitation. I'm like, I feel like it's almost like it. I want to say like you've been handed the keys to a UFO, but you don't know how to drive it. You know what I mean? So you don't know what your next move is. You don't know what the buttons do. And the last time I pushed a button, shit went terribly wrong. So you're just like, hang on. So now you're just sort of apprehensive to push anything. You know what I mean? You're like, am I going to blow up Sweden? I heard it's a really cool place. I got to go check it out. What the fuck? Yeah, and so that's honestly where I'm at with this current moment. It's been a big up level, and I've just got to stop writing level up in my journal because I know what that means. And I've just yeah, it's just an interesting time. It's a very interesting time, but I feel way more mentally fortified. But it's this Dunning-Kruger effect kind of thing that I'm experiencing. I'm probably way further along than I feel that I am. But
Yes.
I feel like especially after this last one, just like I don't know shit, you know what I'm saying? Which is a good humbling place to be, and I appreciate that. But it does rock my fucking confidence. It just rocks it, and that's something I'm not a fan of. I don't believe in doing things that take away your confidence. And this
Yeah.
really fucks with me. Yeah, which is another part of the thing. You know, I
Yeah.
see it very clearly. I just haven't put it forth. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's like, because there's a part of you that moves like lightning cosmic fast. Like, do you ever see portals?
Uh,
You close your eyes or do meditations or things like that?
yeah. I mean, you just mean like the little circles and stuff like that, or like the
Like where it's
kaleidoscope
literally
stuff.
just like,
Oh yeah, yeah. Doesn't everybody see this? Is this an inner monologue thing where I assume everyone has, but the NPCs don't? Like they don't have a voice inside their head and they don't see the kaleidoscope things. So yes, I do see portals.
yeah, I feel like, because there's people too. I'm only asking because I feel like there's people that move lightning. I'm kind of one of those people who I move like, and then there's people who I who also are very like, and so like they have initiations into like getting jetted into that speedy dimension, and they're like, whoa, I definitely need to bring more of this in, because I see where I've been maybe in a little bit too much of like a receptive, and this could just be more like the masculine feminine too, and how as you go deeper into those energies, to bring them into that alchemical, like the way the DNA looks like, into that perfect union. or I guess perfect. I don't even really love that word because it's so
Just the
I feel like
balance. Yeah.
it's just, yeah, the balance. It's always like that ebbing and flowing of those two. But it's interesting because I do feel like some experiences lately have been about the deeper experiencing of the masculine energy and the feminine energy and how cosmic they are, like in different ways.
Yeah, I'm going through the Seth material right now. Have you ever read Seth Speaks by Jane Roberts and Robert Butts?
I have literally so many of her books, but I have not actually read any of them. I've started
Really?
to read Oprah Soul 7, um, which is
This
intense. Yes, I've heard of that one. Seth Speaks.
dude, 70 printed, 70, I believe, but same thing. And the way Seth describes a lot of stuff in here, because this is channeled work, so Seth technically wrote the book. I mean, there's footnotes and stuff like that, but it's a fascinating thing whenever you go down this with the personality and all of that. And in there is a discussion about gender and how it's really sort of only played out here in a way, and that there's a lot of beings that just it doesn't exist in all realities. This is what's so interesting about seeing work like that as well, is it really broadens your scope of how tiny and how much importance we place on all the things here, but that they're really not. And so to something you said earlier about really there's light being shown on this kind of thing, beforehand, New York, what was it? It was all attract LA, same thing. What? Oh, you got to get out there. Everybody, it's a soul suck. It pulls people in. It's big and brightly colored, and it says it's got promises for you and all of those things. And it gets there, and then it churns these souls out, and it's an interesting way of sort of moth to a flame type of a thing, and it's a brilliant flame, right? But then there are places like where my wife and I live. We'll have been out here 8 years, so we moved out before the big bandwagon of I need chickens and stuff, which I think it's so, which makes my point that really the country life before was sort of like, oh, that's podunk, that's redneck, you're gonna get fucking killed, or there's snakes, there's scorpions, there's shit like that out there. Why would you want to live? It's a hard life. You're far away from everything. You don't get pizza delivery, which we don't. But all of that kind of stuff. But now it seems that the script has flipped, as it were, because these places of high reverence are now, like you're talking about, being seen for what they always were, which is this really dense fucking place of these areas of where they just sort of suck you dry, and these energies are just so unappealing. But they were very appealing for a while because they needed to be those energy sources. And then now it seems that folks are being cast out to a few acres here, a few acres there, getting some chickens, stuff like that. So now it's a much more appealing lifestyle. And it again just seems to be the shift in consciousness that we're experiencing, sort of illuminating of the dark, which makes the light so much more appealing, right? So what do you feel in that is going on with this right now, with the illumination of the dark? There's so many things going on here, and I know a lot of folks are talking about this 5D thing. Do you feel we're like already in it, or what do you think is happening right now?
It's interesting because like I pull myself away from like okay, so let me just everything for me is about experience. Which experiencewithmary.com is
Yeah,
the reason for like that name, but it's because I feel like even like fifth dimension, all these labels, like I don't even think about it like that. How I think about it is um how honestly as time passes, how many more things I have started to tune into on like the earthbound level, but then the cosmic level, and it just keeps amplifying. um but I also at the same time am getting better about grounding. So what I'm saying is, yes, absolutely, there is new cosmic light infiltrating our Earth's atmosphere. I have seen things around the torsion field that goes around our globe, and how there was a false torsion system embedded within it. And like that's been released, that's broken off. But I guess the collateral damage of that is kind of like us beings, us humans, who, as this false grid that was embedded into this torsion field, the natural torsion field, the way that that expresses is within us interdimensionally. So the level of suffering or pain or like ancestral healing, karmic healing, trauma healing that's going on within each individual on the micro is an expression of this macro purge as well, that I'm more specifically referencing to this like false embedded system that actually, so if you think about that, like as it kind of coats around the globe, anything that's coming in from the like other planets, other intelligences, it gets like as it would come in through that like false embedded, I guess, like matrix field, which created mass confusion, distortion, fire, like, you know, natural disaster stuff. But I think just individually, people having really serious, more mental health stuff, people that never struggled with it before or aren't understanding or weren't understanding why it was feeling so extreme. And then there's also the other stuff going on around the exposure of things that have been going on for a very long time, and like how people who have been running stuff on earth, like it's being exposed, like all those systems truly are like falling down. But as things fall, like as the house of cards falls, like the cards have to fall somewhere. They hit, you know, they hit on the way down and they land on things. And it seems like there's a call for people just to like continue to stay super calm and grounded individually, because there's also like a splitting, like a bifurcating of like realities. So some people are yes, stepping into these like higher dimensional experiences of like more of a heaven like experience on earth. And then there's others that are, if you were to even say that, they would be like, what are you talking about? Even with regard to like the systems that are being exposed and like all these things that have been going on for so long and blah 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 blah. Like there's a lot of people who have their cheeks completely turned and they're still living in that same thing. And so I think another theme too is people having some stuff, or a lot of stuff around family, like where's my part? Do I go to the holidays this year? Do I take that call from my mom now or not? And it's like, it's not even a matter of not. The message I keep getting is like, because a lot of people are breaking apart from narcissistic abuse, borderline personality abuse, alcoholism, addiction, blah 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 blah, like that they maybe have been passed down the line, and people are getting to the brink of I it's either a yes or a no, like I can't do it. I'm all about the boundaries, but I also feel like when we can internally clear all of that ancestral abuse within us, we can then re-enter and re-emerge into that system in our whole new energy body, which through nonverbal would completely alchemize and change the energetic space. However, if people are still feeling vulnerable to trigger, or like they're going to enter back into that old system and kind of get thrown into that a space where they're off their center, it's like that just shows there's just more work to be done. And some people are like, well, is it just going to be like this for the rest of my life? Because I've never been able to enter into that situation, no matter how many things I've done or how much therapy and blah blah blah. And it's like, it just is more pointing into you and where you can love you more, where you can show up for you more. And I think people really resist that reality that they are the ultimate responsibility for self.
The intimacy, right? Or into me, I see. Have you ever seen that movie Love Guru with Mike Myers?
No, but I feel like it sounds really funny.
It's amazing. It's one of my favorite movies ever, but it's so silly. My wife is yelling in the other room right now. She's watching it. She's going, "Don't watch it, Mary. It's a trap." It's such a funny movie, but it's Mike Myers, so it's silly as hell, but it's just so funny. Anyway,
I
but
feel like she gets me, and I feel like she's gonna be like, "Don't do it," because she like knows how
I'm telling you, don't do it. It's a silly ass movie. If you really just want to unplug and have fun with it, it's
Okay,
a
I'm gonna actually type this in. Mike Myers.
Love Guru, just Love Guru. It's hilarious. His thing is he goes Mariska Hargitay to everybody, and then Mariska Hargitay, the actress, comes up.
Oh, I've
That's his like
seen
thank
it.
you to everyone. Yeah,
I
it's great.
haven't seen this, but I the pictures. I know which movie this is. I've
It's
not
so
seen it.
silly. He's sort of parodying Deepak Chopra and like all the India gurus and all that kind of thing. And so it's absolutely hilarious. My favorite, right straight out the gate, is one of my favorite jokes ever. And I'm not going to tell you what it is. You're gonna have to tell me what it is whenever you watch it. I'm sure you'll pick it out. It's the most immature one in there. That's the one Brandon's talking about, and it's absolutely perfect. But anyway, Love Guru. So that intimacy or into me I see, he does a lot of that in there. And so, but it points out these sort of phonetic options for us, but it's very literal. It's that yes, you need to go within to figure this stuff out, and that's why Thought Ninja was so appropriate. It was just like, okay, well, there's something in there that's going on. So if I just station some sort of century there, then I should be able to figure this out. And it's actually worked out incredibly well. I don't know where I'd be without Thought Ninja. It's really been a game changer, and so much so that we made t-shirts. Like there's a t-shirt of a Thought Ninja, and actually it's the background on my phone, my phone's background, and has been the entire time. It's a constant reminder to stay vigilant on it.
So I just want to ask you this.
Get it,
How
girl.
does Brandon feel about coaxing this part of his ego to work with him and align with the divine will? That's what I hear that the Thought Ninja does, which is you. Like, is there a part of you that feels after this, all these experiences you went through, where you're just like, wow, I am strong and resilient, and I now have this new dude with me, and dude and I, Ninja, are going through another round of badassery, mastery training initiation for this new, like, do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's really shown me that the enemy is within, that there is a true darkness in there that really is a saboteur of sorts and really doesn't want this to succeed. And it's beyond the point of feeling like it's just a challenge to be overcome. It really feels like a darkness to be told, sit down and shut up. And it's whenever I sort of took this approach with it that there, a lot of feelings internally I had with this. Like I did the love and care and all of that stuff, but it felt like when all the momentum kicked up, and it got to the point where new ideas were being introduced, this one part just sat down. But the loving part of me wouldn't carry on without it. I just said, okay, everybody, let's stop. All the other healed versions of me that were very in line with this, that everybody else is on board, this one adversary that I will call it, really challenged me in so many ways and continues to do so. And that's fine. Now, the way that I look at it, though, is it challenges me in ways that we have huge missions here, Mary,
Yeah.
and we need to be fucking strong and resilient and really be that. And so we're tested by ourselves constantly because we are being put in positions of being in front of larger and larger audiences for speaking about things that are very against the mainstream and against the conventional, but this is where we are and this is where we're going. And so this is your and mine's sort of ability. This is our training ground to be able to do this, but we're not only training, but we're doing it at the same exact time. So to feel this sort of heaviness with it has been something that's been very interesting. It feels like it governs and trains at the same time that it stagnates and holds back. And I'm not a fan of the stagnation in the back holding, the back steps and stuff. And no matter how much of an optimist I am, whenever it comes to the creative projects, when it comes to this, when it comes to the publishing house, things like that, whenever it hits roadblocks in the forms of silly things, then I'm just like, what it murders the momentum in such a way that it's annoying as hell. It feels like at a big level we know that we're all powerful and whatever, but that it's whenever you get so excited on such a rhythm with something and then it's just bloop and it stops. I'm just like, and so to you, what you were saying earlier, in the same way that people who aren't lightning quick like we are experiencing lightning quick opportunities, you and I experience slowdown opportunities. Now, I thought these were relegated only to the retrogrades, but silly me. And I take advantage of those. I'm like, okay, they're cosmic slowdown. They're cosmic school zones, as I call them. You just sort of, no matter what lightning pace you're used to, just slow down a little bit. You know what I mean? So that's sort of how I feel that these are occurring, but it's all great because they've led to just so many amazing things. Like lately, the awareness of how it shattered my power in all these different directions, and really to maintain it in the current moment. Like that was a huge awareness that I'm so fucking grateful for. And if it wasn't for that adversarial part of me, keeping me in check, as it were, and really inviting me to level up, then I wouldn't have experienced that. I wouldn't have had Thought Ninja. I wouldn't have had this new awareness. And so I'm honestly to a point, I would, again, never be so hubris, but like I'm done manifesting lessons. Like, let's fucking go. You know what I mean? Like, let's go with what I got now. You know what I'm saying? Like, we'll lesson and evolve along the way. It's the pace that's annoying as shit in the third dimension. Because again, you and I are, and all of us here are really light beings and creators. And so to be so slowed down here is a challenge. I think it's part of it, but that's how I feel a lot of times. Like you said, claustrophobic. Yeah.
So, okay, because as you were saying this, I was thinking, wow, Falcon. It's going right by my window.
Cool.
Okay.
Falcons are the reasons we have jet engines. Because their nose. I'll tell you about it later. Go ahead.
Wait, what? No, I want to hear this because
No,
I see falcons. Falcons
thoughts.
are like a spirit animal of mine.
Do you want me to write down your thoughts so we don't forget it, or do you want me to come back to falcons? All right, falcons. The peregrine falcon is the fastest diving and moving animal in the world. And it's because of its dive.
Look at what we're talking about, and look at what you just said.
It's so cool. So its dive is to hit prey because its vision is incredible. They soar so high, but whenever they come in at such a speed that their nose, have you seen their nose cones? I'm actually going to pull this up and we're going to talk about it while we're doing this. Their nose.
Look how God works. We're talking about speed, and then the falcon, and then we diverted, and now we're talking about the speed by which falcons dive.
Yeah. This is a great show. Okay, I'm going to share screen actually and just show you this because this is cool. We just do what we want here, and it's all awesome. Because it'll make the point here. Okay, do you see there? And actually, this is making my point right here. Do you see the nose? This little circle right here in the nose?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's a peregrine falcon. And the deal with this is that they have this spot or this cone in their nose cavity here that breaks the wind so that wind doesn't go all directly in there. And the reason for that is because they would pass out at those speeds if the wind was not diverted and regulated, just as a jet engine does. So the jet engine actually exists as a mimic of the design in nature because the peregrine falcon moving at those speeds, it doesn't pass out in the same way that this cone allows the engine not to choke at those speeds and continue to do so. It diverts the air. Isn't that crazy interesting? Fucking nature, dude.
Wait, what?
Yeah, falcon. See its nose right there?
How is this? This needs to be like regular ass info here.
That's it right there. Isn't that wild? So its nose cone right there is the big deal. And yeah. Anyway, there's your fun fact. So when you say falcon, this is what I think of every time is whenever you say falcon, because we have hawks out here in Texas, but not falcons. This is different. Falcons are like what's in like the mummy. You know what I mean? On that dude's arm and he flies around.
I mean, hawks too, like they are just the free. So it's like with animal medicine, that's another thing. It seems like lately the connection to animals and the frequencies that they are at, and if they really come into your field, I'm always, because people are like, what do you mean by hawk medicine or whatever, and it's more like, as you know, it's like you guys got a ton of wildlife out where you are.
Dude, we're gonna show you the insect collection. I'll show you this. They just come over and they like die. We don't kill them, but they'll die and we find them. We found this beetle that's like this fucking, it's huge, and like a bunch of cicadas right now. Do you know what those are? They sound like maracas in the trees. They're great.
Because you were talking about them when we were on the phone because they were making quite.
Because they were loud as shit. Yeah. Yeah, they're loud in the summertime. And then we found this moth that's huge with like the little tentacles that hang down and like it's white and fuzzy. Anyway, we had this huge insect collection out here from them just like dying, and I was just picking them up and putting them on the counter.
You guys ever do you get like mosquitoes or bites or anything like that?
Yeah, they love the wife. They don't care for me very much, but I'll get them every now and then, but it doesn't bother me. Yeah. But we do have those. The scorpions are cool. And we've only seen one copperhead this year. That's a venomous snake. Most of the snakes out here are non-venomous and they're no big deal. We just move
So,
by. Have you looked into a falcon or a falcon totem?
well, I have. Should I pull out my medicine card deck?
Fucking totally do that. Yeah. Do that and I'll
Is
read
it
the
card?
I'll read the falcon totem while you're doing that. So this is something Mary and I got into on our trip because we have our friend of ours, Ksenia Moore, who will actually absolutely join us for one of these, by the way, audience. She was telling us to look up totems for animals that we found and that would arrive because we found like ravens and all kinds of stuff. And we're like, this is cool. So now the wife and I are really into looking up totems for animals that we come across. And the falcon one is super cool. There's a bunch of symbolism in here. So the symbolism stands for victory, superiority, determination, loyalty, strength, and wisdom. And as a spirit animal, you are patient, strategic, and determined to achieve your dreams. And then in dreams, if you see a falcon in your dreams, stresses upon the need to see things from a different perspective so as to prosper. That's interesting because that would make sense.
One I get a lot of visits in my dreams from Cooper's hawks.
Cooper's hawks. I've never even heard of that.
Yeah.
You want to hear the falcon totem while I've got you?
Yes. I just want to make sure though that this deck actually has.
Okay, this is from whatismyspiritanimal.com. Shout out. This is when so your falcon, if you see a falcon, this is what it means. When falcon rises as your spirit animal, it is time to sit in the seat of your own power. Bam, bam, bow. Here, bam, you get some music to that.
Hi.
Falcon as a totem animal belongs to those who impassion the world with a fiery solar energy. Rare. And then call in Falcon as your power mind when you need. Call in Falcon as your power mind when you need help creating strategies. How cool is that? I call on the power of the Falcon, and you just like. Have you ever seen Hot Rod, that movie with Andy Samberg?
No.
He does this. He embodies different animals, and they show up in his eyes, and it's hilarious. Anyway.
Okay, so what's going to happen here is I'm actually going to pull a card for the listeners from this medicine card deck because there is no falcon in here.
Okay.
So what it's now turning into is just a little card pull.
You see how cool this is? How the rabbit holes we take this down? Thank you for being intuitively guided to have fun with this.
Yeah, and I also have this other fantastic deck by this woman named Rebecca Campbell, and anyone who knows Oracle decks knows who I'm talking about. And she just came out with a brand new deck that I own. I have it here, right here.
Shit.
Called Healing Waters, and I feel very called to pull one there too. So as whatever conversation continues to flow, I'll just be doing this over here.
Awesome.
What's in that vape over there?
It's just a nicotine delivery system. It's nothing fun. The fun stuff's in the glass piece over here for after the show. Yeah.
Do you ever just rip a stogie?
Cigarettes? No, I quit cigarettes like 12 years ago, like 12 or 13 actually. But I was big on cigarettes. Yeah, I have a big time oral fixation. That is absolutely an addiction, attachment, whatever you want to call it. That is absolutely mine, and I'm proud of it. That's fine.
Why do I feel like you like sour gummies?
I like gummies.
Yeah, you're like a gummy bear kind of guy.
Oh yeah, big time.
You don't like sour things though?
No, I do. Yeah, I do. Like the wife's huge into the Sour Patch Kids and stuff like that, which I'm not like running towards, but I will absolutely take you up on one if you want.
I'm not running towards that.
Like, fuck yeah.
You're like a Skittles guy then.
I'm a Skittles guy. I'll like pack a shitload of Skittles in my mouth. Yeah, I love that stuff. It's good, just all of them. Can you taste the difference in Skittles?
Yes.
I think there was an intended difference, and because they're all in the same bag, they just become the same flavor of all of them.
Well, okay, here's my
Proximity, like a
question. Aren't they
potpourri.
aren't they not different?
I want to say at least M&M's isn't, because that's the funny thing about, that's how you stop racism in front of you. You're like, racism is like having a favorite flavor M&M. You're a fucking moron.
Okay,
Because they're all the same. They're just different colors on the outside.
I went to the, this is wild that I just pulled this card. Because I got these two rabbits living out front here and I'm obsessed with them. I feed them, I love them. I nurtured a relationship with them because when you look into the eyes of animals, you connect with their frequency. And have we talked about intercestation communication,
No, but I'd love to.
where you can communicate with whales and dolphins? They can transmit their sonar radio waves into you, and it can literally like change your entire bodily system as a human being. Wow. There is a whole world around. I actually have a book that I feel like I should pull off and bring over here, but it's a lot of people in California who surf, and Hawaii, whatever, like you can, if you surf, and a lot of the dolphins will come close to shore, but people who do swim with dolphins or connect with them have very real like heart expanding experiences, because whales and dolphins, they're like some of the most intelligent species that are on earth, like in an energetic way. And but it's like with hawks, rabbit, which is the card that I pulled.
We have a bunch of rabbits out here too.
So I just know right off the bat with rabbits, it's about fertility, it's about creativity, about abundance. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll just keep it quick and short. But let's see, where is it? Rabbit. Okay.
While you're looking for that, I'm going to show off my Cheez-It Orgone pyramid that a buddy of mine made me. Look at that thing.
What?
Yeah. Guy named
What?
Jason Rowland.
Does he do Cheeto ones?
He'll do anything you do. You want a Cheeto one?
I would literally, yes.
He's an artist actually that's working with our publishing house, Digital. He's working on a project right now with his daughter that's so cool. His entire family is so talented.
Are those real cheeses?
Yeah, they're real fucking Cheez-Its. And he made this. Isn't that awesome?
Video of this
Orgone pyramid. I thought it was so cool.
Oh my god, that is so funny.
We'll get you one.
Cheetos, and actually flaming hot, please.
Flaming hot. I actually got that. I was gonna ask, but I didn't. I was like, flaming hot. It's gonna be red and super cool. So yes, done.
Does it actually have like organite in it?
Maybe I don't think so. I think it's just a shitload of cheese. It's stuffed in here with I feel it's got power. I feel good about it.
Absolutely. If I had a flaming hot pyramid, organite, false, or whatever,
it's done. Yeah. But and Jason Rowland, guys, on Instagram, hit him up. He's great. He's got sort of a Grateful Dead icon, black and white, for his logo. Jason is incredible in all ways. He makes these wooden knockers and stuff. And actually, if you go to my page, Expanding Reality 369 on Instagram, I have a whole video where I laid all the stickers and stuff. He drew all of that. All of that's his art. And he made it into a bunch of stickers and pens and pencils and all kinds of stuff and sent it. And then that was in it too. I just thought it was so cool. He's such an awesome guy. So shout out, Jason.
Shout out, Jason.
Yeah.
Okay. Scared little rabbit, please drop your fright. Running doesn't stop the pain or turn the dark to light. A long time ago, no one really knows how long ago it was. Rabbit was a brave and fearless warrior. Rabbit was befriended by Eyewalker, a witch. The witch and Rabbit spent much time together, sharing and talking. The two were very close. Okay. Should I, because this is a long. Would you like me to read the whole page?
How do you feel about it? Do you feel what? So you pulled the rabbit, and then what was?
No, I just don't want to like be boring by reading this.
You're not boring. You're not boring. We got 20 minutes. You're fine. This is awesome. We're all here with you in the moment. So there's nothing else. No other place I'd rather be.
Have any listeners here?
Yeah. Probably. I don't monitor it, so it's just me and you, darling.
One day, Eyewalker and Rabbit were walking along and they sat down on the trail to rest. Rabbit said, "I'm thirsty." Eyewalker picked up a leaf, blew on it, and then handed Rabbit a gourd of water. Rabbit drank the water but didn't say anything. Then Rabbit said, "I'm hungry." Eyewalker picked up a stone and blew it on it and changed it to a turnip. She gave the turnip to the Rabbit to eat. Rabbit tasted it and then ate the turnip with relish. But still, Rabbit didn't say anything. The two continued along the trail, which led into the mountains. Near the top, Rabbit tripped and fell and rolled almost to the bottom. Rabbit was in a very sad condition, and when Eyewalker got to him, she used a magic salve on Rabbit to heal his great pain and mend his broken bones. Rabbit didn't say anything. Several days later, Eyewalker went searching for her friend. She searched high and low, but Rabbit was nowhere to be found. Finally, Eyewalker gave up. She met Rabbit quite by accident one day. "Rabbit, why are you hiding and avoiding me?" the witch asked. "Because I'm afraid of you. I'm afraid of magic. Leave me alone." "I see," said Eyewalker. I have used my magical powers on your behalf, and now you turn on me and refuse my friendship. I want nothing more to do with you or your powers," Rabbit countered. Rabbit did not even see the tears his words were bringing to Eyewalker's eyes. "I hope we never meet and that I never see you again," Rabbit said. "Rabbit," Eyewalker said, "we once were great friends and companions, but no more. It is within my power to destroy you, but because of the past and the medicines we have shared together, I will not do this. But from this day forward, I lay a curse on you and your tribe. From now on, you will call your fears, and your fears will come to you. Be on your way, for the sweet medicines that bound us together as friends are broken." Now Rabbit is the fear caller. He goes out and shouts, "Eagle, I am so afraid of you." If Eagle doesn't hear him, Rabbit calls louder, "Eagle, stay away from me." Eagle, now hearing Rabbit, comes and eats him. Rabbit calls bobcats, wolves, coyotes, and even snakes until they come. As this story shows, rabbit medicine people are so afraid of tragedy, illness, disaster, and being taken that they call those very fears to them to teach them lessons. The keynote here is what you resist will persist. What you fear most is what you will become. Here's a lesson. If you pulled Rabbit, stop talking about horrible things happening and get rid of "what if" in your vocabulary. This card may signal a time of worry about the future or of trying to exercise your control over that which is not yet informed. The future, stop now. Write your fears down and be willing to feel them. Breathe into them and feel them running through your body into Mother Earth as a giveaway.
Beautiful. The only what if game we do play, and I would only argue this point, is what's the best that can happen? You know what I mean? If you're going to play what if, play what's the best that can happen. Alchemize that shit. You know, don't avoid it altogether. If I may, book that.
No, I love that because this have you seen this book and this deck?
No, it looks awesome.
This is old school AF. The medicine cards book was 1988. It's like one of the first, I feel like, OG kind of decks. And then it's actually something I would love to do is create a deck. Because I feel like they're amazing. I don't professionally do tarot for readings or anything, but I think it's fantastic. Have you ever gotten a tarot reading?
I have. I've actually had Ariel Vega on the show, an absolute dear and delight. You've got to meet Ariel. Lives in New York and loves it, by the way. It's just an absolute dear and one of the best, most incredible tarot readers I've ever come across. Just anything. I'm going to actually connect you with him. He's on TikTok and just doing great. Also, I've had someone on the show named Carla Blaha, and she was fantastic. Same thing. We didn't do a reading per se, but we did one beforehand. And it's always interesting to me. And people would just say that as we're sitting here talking, they'll be like, "Can I pull some cards?" I'm like, "Fuck yeah, I'm always into that." I always think it's so cool, and we always get excited about it together. So thank you for doing that.
Well, it's just interesting because I actually I have a ton. I love cards. I do not use them in my readings because I'm getting inundated with so much information that I'm like, the cards, I don't know. But I love the idea of using them in sessions, but for me, I feel like my focus, the information systems and guides that I'm working with, like, they're just like, you work with us. and we work with you, and that's how this works. The cards is going to be a separate thing if that's what you're going to do, young lady.
Really? Have you maybe a conversation? Maybe, hey, look, if there's some value in one of these card decks while I'm with a client, call me to it and I will pull, and you absolutely pull the exact one that I need for this client. And maybe even make it just sort of a, hey, I'm intuitively guided to pick up this deck for you, and we're going to do just one card pull for this session. And maybe it's just a yes and rather than an either or.
Well, it's interesting because in the last 3 months, I've got some really cool. Oh my gosh, there's this
I'm going
one.
to send you Barbara DeLong's new deck. She just designed one. I'm going to get you one.
There's one called, oh my gosh, I'm like deck queen.
Yeah.
If someone has a deck that they think is cool and whatever, I'm like, yes, send my way. But
Yeah.
there's one called the Starseed Oracle by Wizard Azanon. It is literally, it's my number one. It's my number one. And it's really weird because I actually had a call to bring it home with me today. And what I was going to say is, to your point, I have been getting these nudges to start using cards, but only for specific people when they're in session. And I have an Archangel deck. I have my Starseed deck. I have a light deck. Got a lot. And it will say, you're going to start pulling cards. So I'll start, as the person's usually doing breath work, is when I'll start shuffling them, and they'll be like, are you going to pull a card? Because like people who come to see me know that I don't do that. And I'm like, your guys want me to pull you a card. So yes, we are pulling a card. We're doing that right now.
See, that's it. It's just what you're guided to provide there. That's outstanding. So the more literally tools in your arsenal, the more cards in your deck there, the more decks.
Yes.
That's really, really cool. You get to broaden the experience.
Okay, so this next deck, just going to pull one. It's by Rebecca Campbell. She has incredible decks. She has a Rose Oracle deck, a Work with Your Light deck, a Starseed deck that is epic, different than the other Starseed deck that I'm talking about. The Starseed deck that I was talking about, he connects with the Andromedans and the Pleiadians, and just from what you see in his deck, it's very also much like Arcturian, and he pulls in like zodiac crystals, specific chakras, and then there's like an activating symbol for each card. It's so next level. It's not even funny. Sometimes when I pull them, I'm like, this is so on point. But if it's someone who just isn't as familiar with like the Starseed stuff, they're like, huh?
Gotcha. It's lost because they don't get the concept.
Yeah, it's just very, very, very advanced when it talks just about inner dimensions and portals, and yeah, it's next level. Okay, the card for us all this evening is really beautiful. I'll flash it on the screen here because Rebecca Campbell's decks are known for her incredible art. And this card is Bounteous, generously given, relationships coming together, which is what we're all doing.
That's it. Yeah.
Look at that.
That's beautiful and perfect.
Food. And then in the card, it's two young girls actually over a stream. And then there's two hummingbirds, and then there's like a water portal coming above, because it truly is just that as we all come together. Well, first of all, let's all give Brandon a moment here. Brandon, for creating this platform, for giving people like myself who do this trippy far out work to like spend this evening chatting, connecting with someone who's at wherever they're at. Maybe they had nothing to do this evening. Maybe they felt lonely. Maybe they felt like, maybe they didn't feel lonely. Maybe they felt fabulous as F, and they were like, you know what? I want to hang out with these fabulous people tonight. Like, whatever it is, I'm just so grateful that you took the leap that you did at that time that you did, and that you and your wife have stuck through these periods, because there's so much that's going to occur. There's so many things happening. These things that come in, like with this unknown and the fear and whatever, it's just part of it. and like the skills you have for production. This mic, I'm just like, because I'm having to do some of these things for my course, and I'm a newfound respect, because video production, sound production, engineering, editing, we need you, Brandon.
We'll get your ass out here. We'll do it out here. We can do all your course out here with all this gear and stuff on us. You just come hang out. I would be honored. And
Yeah,
thank you for the compliment.
we'll have to have that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We'll get you a proper burger and we'll get your course done. I would love that. We got donkeys and everything, dude. They're great. It's like, we're not gonna eat the donkeys. Oh, we have 6 of them. They're beautiful. We went out there earlier, gave them some carrots and stuff, and oh, they're just sweethearts. They're all girls.
Do you guys have white horses?
We have 1 white donkey, and actually, we rehomed all of our horses. We've had 3 horses out here. One was brown, she was cool, and then another one named Toby. He was a huge white paint horse, so he was mostly white, but with brown, patches or paint spots on him. And then we had a mini horse that was all white, that was a paint, but he was all black spots. So they were like this. Have you ever seen Twins with Danny DeVito and Arnold Schwarzenegger? It was a super old movie. Like,
I know exactly what you're talking about because I've seen the pictures.
That's what it was like. They were twins, but inverted colors, but they ran around together. They were adorable. They were like little sidekicks, like I don't know, Don Quixote and Sancho Panza, something like that. It was adorable. But no, we have 1 white donkey now, and her name's Daphne, and she's amazing.
Daphne, that's such a cute name. How did you guys come up with that name?
I don't know. We just said that looks like Daphne when we rescued her, and she was huge and fat and very overweight, and they thought she was pregnant and like all this stuff. Turns out they were just overfeeding her and not exercising her, and then she got out here and has lost all this weight. She's been with us for years. She's great.
It is when people overfeed. What people don't understand is when they overfeed, it's abuse.
Yeah, big time. And donkeys will just eat, and then they store it in their haunches and their neck, and so they get the real thick necks. And so she's still got a real thick neck. Like she's been on diets and stuff like that. She just retained it, and it's fine. She's slimmed down, but she'll like sprint. She didn't run when she first came out here, and now she's like running around with the other girls and stuff. It's cute. You get a big thunderstorm that rolls in, they just start running. It's amazing.
She's got some stuff lodged in her throat chakra.
Is that what it is? Because it's beefing her up.
Is it in the back?
It's this spot on her neck, and they'll do this whenever they've been overfed. So it's just sort of like her shape,
Oh.
She's sort of the Lizzos of donkeys, and we love her.
Okay, so I'm not going to read the full thing, but there is. Well, I'll just say this. When water is present, life is present. It's a gift offered to us and through us, generously offered, bountifully given. We're beginning to wake up to this precious substance we have in our lives and never take it for granted. This card encourages you to appreciate the gifts, bounty, opportunities, and privileges that are in your life, to embrace what you need, but also be generous to others who might not have what you have, to acknowledge and receive the abundance around you, but also share it, to appreciate the simple things to your life, like running water. I'm just going to speak on this.
Love it.
I have been really trying to work on my gratitude practice, like really, 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 because with someone who has historically struggled with depression, that's a big part of my story, is something that I've overcome. Like, and that's anyone who's had depression knows, like it's bigger than you just gotta, affirm your way out of it. Like it can feel really a lot bigger than that, but there is a way out. And yes, when people say, work on your gratitude practice, it stops becoming triggering because you eventually realize the importance of it. And I will say, like, lately, I've just been trying to really look around with reverence and honor for this life we have. And just, it's also like, because with like the third dimension and linear experiencing of reality, it can feel like time is dragging, but then that's when you're in that sort of maybe depressive heavy state. I'm speaking for myself. And then it's like, when now that I've gotten past that and I'm moving in a different place, there have been moments where I look back and I'm like, damn, like there was so much time that I spent like in that whack ass mindset. And yet that's still that same little kind of sneaky ego, whatever. So I'm like, hey, hold on, Miss
We're not back there. We're here. Yeah.
We're here. Relax. You had to go through all that shiz to get here. And so now I'm just like, it's the same thing too. Like I need to think of my own name for my thought ninja, because even when that quick little voice comes in, it's like, look at all that time you spent depressed and wasted all this time. Blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, no, we're not welcoming that here.
What's something you find like badass? Like something you find just awesome? Like one of the Valkyrie, like one of the Norse god.
Okay, so I do have a very deep connection with the Valkyrie. I've had a couple reads with all the Valkyrie stuff. And crazy story, I went on a hike once, one of my favorite portal hikes in Laguna Beach. And I lose my service in the same place. And I was in a gnarly rock bottom place in my life at that point. Like, and I usually go to this hike when I'm in that place because I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to just like walk this off. I need to just, get this gnarly workout in so I can get out of this mindset. Lose my service. So then I tuck my phone away always at the same time on this hike. And all of a sudden, I shit you not, I'm going to have to just put it on my phone because there's just no other.
We believe you, but I totally want to see what you have to show us. Because I just pictured Valkyrie. I could have said anything. I could have said like Wonder Woman or a goddess or an alligator with a bow, like a bow in her hair or something like that. Anything that would be vicious, or ferocious. But said Valkyrie just off the top of my head because I was thinking of Thor. I was thinking how badass that chick is in there. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh yeah, I see you like riding a Pegasus, just like crushing this thing, but having like a Valkyrie at your, this is an entity you connect with, you create. This is an egregore. There's like been studies. People have sat around a table, created like an egregore named Timothy, and he animated in front of everyone, walked around, knocked shit off tables and stuff, and then disappeared. So it's like interesting too to think that we're manifesting creatures that then just run off into the world and like have the effects that we want. So if you're going to do that, maybe create one that's amazing, like a thought ninja or like a fleet of fairies or like a Valkyrie, this vigilant Valkyrie that violently says fuck off to the horrible shit. Yeah.
I have a Pegasus.
Goddess.
The only logo I have on my website is a Pegasus.
My car is named Peggy. I've had her for 12 years and it's short for Pegasus. Yeah.
Okay. Can you hear it? You can't?
No. Is it playing? It's because we have the noise cancellation thing on. Let me see if we...
Oh, maybe I need to play it on my computer.
Yeah, if you could play it on the computer, that'd probably work. We have about a minute and a half. So if you can't play it for us, then I will include it in the show description. But I think you can do it, and I believe in you. And either way, while we're sort of wrapping up here, just wanted to say thank you so damn much. You're just so special and so incredible. And so I was very much looking forward to doing this evening with you. And then, same thing. If you want to stick around, we can chat for a minute after this. But I'll probably stop the live here in just a minute. And just wanted to thank you again so much and to tell everybody, go check her out. Experience with Mary. And that is, I'm going to show you shit right now because I have it pulled up. Come on. Bam. There she is.
SEO smarter. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm muting that. Sorry.
Oh, there we go. Go ahead. Oops. Yeah, so this is her. And then connect with her further, guys. She's one of the most incredible. Yeah, there's your Pegasus right there.
Booyah.
Booyah. All right. Okay, so let's hear the noise. These are such cool pants, by the way. Did you make those? All right. What? We can't hear it. That's okay. Send me the link. We'll include.
Oh my gosh. It's The Ride of the Valkyries by the London Philharmonic. No. I get to the bottom of this hike. I'm at this like dark night of the soul. And this song starts shredding on my phone. And I'm like, what the? I fall to my knees because I've had this crazy connection with Valkyrie, Nordic, Vikings. Like there's a full past life stuff for me, blah, 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 blah. And I start crying and weeping because it's like the song is The Ride of the Valkyries. It's the victorious, it's the ride at the end. It's the victorious ride. It's like the end of the thing. They take the gods to the heavens, and it's like it just was epic, and it was when a lot of crazy synchronicities were happening, but I'd say I really needed that one, and it was just really wild. It's like one of my favorite stories to tell, because like still to this day I still am like, I felt like I was hallucinating. I was like, is this happening? My phone never ever in its life, in history, ever worked on that part of the hike. Like, I don't download any of my music, and I do Apple Music, so it's like it just randomly play, and I shoved it in my bag, and I started to hear this rumbling, and I'm like, and it was the song. It was crazy.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mary Buckingham, thank you so much.
I love you guys. Thank you for listening. I'm here to be of service, so book away if you feel called.
Y'all reach out. She's down in the show description. Experiencewithmary.com. Darling,
Doing a course too soon, so
yes, we're gonna come film it out here.